John, would you mind doing the Pledge of Allegiance for us tonight? Oh, I'm sorry. Let's do a roll call first. Roll first. Yes, roll call first.
Chair Pillitz,
Be present.
Vice Chair Norvell,
Here.
Treasurer Rogers,
Here.
Member Hamilton,
Here.
Member Horton, Member Hutter,
Here.
Member Golden.
I am here.
A quorum's present.
Did you get Hamilton?
Yes,
Yeah, okay, good.
yes.
Okay, so we do have a quorum. Now we can do the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks. At this time, I'd normally ask for approval of the minutes of the past meeting. However, they were not submitted to us this month, so we're going to table that until next month to approve the minutes. Is there any problem with that, anybody here? No? It is on. And so I guess, does that require to make a motion for that or not? Okay, let's move on then. Okay. Modification of the agenda. The chairman does reserve the right to modify the agenda in order to most effectively process the agenda items. Items may be taken out of order, items may be combined for consideration by the authority, and items may be pulled or removed from the agenda at any time. Members of the public who wish to address the airport authority may speak on agendized and non-agendized matters related to the airport. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person per topic. If your item requires extended discussion, please request the chairman to calendar the matter for a future airport authority meeting. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to move to the consent agenda. The consent agenda does not have to be discussed, but we do have two items. One is the possible action to approve professional services agreement with Kaufman and Associates to serve as the airport planning consultant for a period of 5 years, and the second for possible action to award and execute the FAA contract for the AIP 44 snow removal building construction to the responsive parent low bidder, Houston Smith Construction. So with that, is there any comments or discussions? None? Okay, then I would like to call for a member to make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept and approve the consent agenda as written.
Second. Mr. Hutter, second. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Consent agenda has been approved. Now, public hearings.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
are we doing airport engineers report at a later time?
Oh, we can do that now if we'd like to.
I just
We have the
didn't-
engineer on
I just didn't know if
online.
they were waiting or something.
Is the airport engineer online?
They have the dial-in information, so they should have called in.
There is nobody online at the moment.
Okay.
Okay, well, since the engineer is not online at this time, if the engineer does get online, we find out, we'll open it up for them. Is there any other public comment at this time before we start the agendized items? None at this point, so we'll move on to agenda item G1.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
can I call for a brief recess? Because I believe that there is a public individual who would like to make comment, who would have dialed in. And if there's nobody online, that means that the engineer and that person's are not here. There might be an issue
Okay,
with that. And they may want to make public comment on this item.
want to take a 5-minute break?
If we can take a 5-minute break,
Okay.
that'd be really good.
Very good. Okay, we're going to go ahead and re-adjourn. Thank you. We had those technical difficulties. I do understand that Nadine is on the line from our engineering company. Nadine, are you present?
Yes, I am here.
Welcome.
Can you hear me?
We-
Okay.
We can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Go ahead.
So let's see. For the update this month, there's no new information about the snow removal equipment, unfortunately. But of course, as soon as we do have new information, I will share that with you. I'll share that with Corey and the rest. As for the offset Pappy construction project, we are in conversations with Titan Electrical in order to get their schedule pinned down and that start date determined. The ball is rolling. We just don't have a finite start for that just yet. Kind of similarly, the ball is rolling with Houston Smith Construction based on the recent approval of their documents. I've been in talks with them just real briefly, giving them a heads up that they should start putting together a schedule and a start date and a plan for that construction. So no major updates, just everything to be expected, rolling, the ball's rolling on all of those.
And that's it?
Yes, I suppose so. If there's any questions, feel free to ask them away, or we can do that over email later as well.
Any questions for Nadine? Yes.
Maybe just one quick one, Nadine, Carl Hutter. Of course, wonderful to hear about the progress with Titan. I was just curious, as we move the physical construction that will support our future nighttime approach forward, what is the parallel path that's going on the charting side and the actual approach design side at Oak City with FAA? I mean, is there kind of a sense of kind of where they are in their process?
No, I don't have a clear sense of exactly what what's happening on their side. What typically I think what happens is we'd have to kind of go through the flight check process, and a lot of it rides on the results of that. Unfortunately, I don't have a good answer for that, but it is part of the process.
So
the kind of the
phasing,
strung out part of the process.
yeah. So phasing wise, likely we're at a point where they've got the project initiated, I would imagine, but now we need to do the construction so that they have the equipment in place to actually then flight check the approach. Would that be the sequence?
Yes, that's correct.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you, Nadine. Any
You're
other
welcome.
questions?
Thank you.
Okay, with that then, we're going to go on to agenda item H1. This is for discussion and possible action. This is the approval of change of control of KCXP Investments LLC from Tom Gonzalez to Bradley Busman, the trustee of the Gonzalez Charitable and Remainder Unit Trust 2. There is a staff summary. Do you want to go through that, Corey?
Yes, I can go through that.
If you don't have it in front of you, I have it in front of me.
Why don't you go through the
Okay.
staff summary, and
Okay.
then I'll add any additional.
Tom Gonzalez transferred his membership interest in KCXP Investments LLC to a charitable remainder trust with Bradley Busman as trustee on January 12, 2018. Bradley Busman notified airport staff of the change of ownership on June 30th, 2023. Per the terms of the lease, a change of ownership of 25% or more is subject to airport authority approval. The staff does recommend an approval. As you all notice, we don't have our legal counsel with us tonight. Steve Takis had to deal with a family emergency. It's not serious, but he had to care for his family, so we had to leave at the last minute. Is there anything else that you'd like to discuss on this item?
I just sent you an email.
Got it?
I think the only thing I would add is maybe review that email and maybe consider mentioning what he states as public comment.
Okay, I can do that. And will there be a discussion from the panel or outside? No? Yes? No? No discussion from the, okay, on this item? Not on this item, okay. Just Mr. Busman was having difficulty get on because of our technical difficulty. He just sent an email to Corey. And basically, he said he had a phone call with James Pickett today and is aware that Mr. Gonzalez will be in attendance this evening. And he says, his knowledge, he has agreed to the assignment of the lease for the vacant parcel, but has not consented to the lease yet. But that's the different option. That's a different area. So unless, he basically says, as far as he knows, by paraphrasing this email, that he is still a trustee of the trust, and the trust is still valid, and the owner of KCXP Investments LLC, the Delaware entity. That's from Mr. Busman. Clear? And we can share this with you. Okay, we can share this with you too. Oh, okay. Mr. Gonzalez just said that he agrees, but the verbiage is a bit different than the way he would put it. Can you come up and put that on the, just, that way we have it on the record, Tom?
Push the button?
Yeah.
Is that good now?
State your name and
My name is Tom Gonzalez. I am the benefactor of the Gonzalez Legacy Trust. And I am the builder of Jet Ranch. The only thing that I have issue with is that Mr. Busman states that it is a valid trust, and yet he has stated in front of, on a deposition, that it's an invalid trust. And so it's yet to be determined, but for the moment, I'm not going to say that I own the property. I gave it to my trust.
thank you, Tom. That helps.
Thank you.
Discussion from anyone on the board? Go ahead, Michael.
I'm a little uncomfortable with this entire situation with our legal counsel being absent due to a family emergency. Do we have any input from Steve on any of this, Corey?
We do.
We do.
I can say that Steve has reviewed each of these items prior to them being submitted on the agenda, and the staff's recommendation does include his input.
Okay.
So I think that as long as there's no changes to the recommendation, the proposed motion, or any changes to the agenda item, that we can go forward. Unless a board member feels like there's something that needs legal review. If someone feels like something needs legal review,
As long as we have that review in place, that raises my level of comfort. But again, just to clarify, Steve has conveyed to you no changes whatsoever from what's in the staff report.
yeah, I had a conversation with him about that specifically.
Okay.
He stated that as long as everything stays the same,
Mhm.
he wouldn't have any issue with moving forward with approving item H1 and item H2. Item H3 would also be the same, but it's my understanding that we may receive some public comment
Okay.
about H3, which I think we actually already have in Busman's email.
Okay. Is there any other comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Norvell.
all I would add is that with respect to H1, acknowledging the change of ownership, all we're doing is really acknowledging what has already occurred. Acknowledging that does in no way affect what happens in the future. We're just acknowledging what already occurred in 2018. and
Correct.
Making that official, which is required by Title 19 for us to do, but it does not affect anything that may occur in the future.
Correct. Any other discussion from the public? No? Okay. That being said, would someone like to propose a motion?
I move to approve the change of control from KCXP Investments LLC from Tom Gonzalez to Bradley Busman, the trustee of the Gonzalez Charitable Remainder Unit Trust 2.
Do I hear a second? Okay, Mr. Golden seconds that. All those in favor, say
Aye.
aye. Opposed? None. Motion passes. Okay, agenda item number H2 for discussion and possible action. Approve KCXP Investments LLC lease assignment to Carson Tahoe Executive LLC. Corey, do you have a staff summary you'd like to share with this?
Sure. Okay, so for this item, this is that KCXP Investments LLC would like to complete a lease assignment of APN 005-02106 to Carson Tahoe Executive. This is a transfer of a ground lease to another party. I have not heard of any opposition from any of the parties, so if anyone has any public comment, we can ask for that. Other than that, this is a pretty straightforward item, and this has been reviewed by legal counsel, and he would agree with the proposed motion.
Any comments from the public? And then any comments from the board? I just have one comment personally. We did want to discuss the fact that Mr. Gonzalez gave us a non-refundable $25,000 deposit to commit to develop this within, I think it was 2 years, Tom, is that correct? Yes. And that has been dealt with legally between the two parties.
Yes,
as far
sir, it
as
has.
they've assumed that obligation. Is
Yes,
that-
sir.
Very good. Okay, so we all know that that has been assumed. That means that KCX or the Carson Tahoe Executive plans on developing that within the timeframe that Mr. Gonzalez committed to. Good. Yes, Mr. Rogers.
And just to put it on record, that agreement also requires that we have plans in place, to bring before the board by February 1st of 2024. So that's part of the agreement.
Thanks for clarifying that. Okay, well, unless there's any other discussion, I can call on a member to make a motion. Anybody want to make a motion for this one? Paul?
Happy to, Tim.
Yeah, I did beforehand, yes. Harlow's keep me honest here since he's a former chair. I appreciate it.
Board members first, and then public comment, then bring it back.
I'm getting close. Michael, you want to make a motion?
Absolutely. I would move to approve the KCXP Investments LLC lease assignment to Carson Tahoe Executive and the assignment of the agreement to postpone or avoid lease termination.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Passes. Very good. We're moving on to agenda item H3. And this item is for possible discussion and possible action, approve KCXP Investments LLC sublease to Carson Tahoe Executive LLC. Now, I've been told this particular negotiation needs to have some tweaking done before it's finalized. Is that what I understand from the people involved?
Am I to speak for
Yeah,
it first?
yes, you can speak for us.
That is correct. It needs to working on it, and I would request from this board that we tender this decision on this for 60 days and give us a chance to work it out.
Thank you. Any discussion from the board? I will. Harlow said the board's got to go first.
Tim, point of order on this one. I think you just want to table it, and then there's no public comment.
Well, the fact that we're happy to table it unless there's any other is there any other comment from the public? No? From the board? Any comment before we make a motion to table?
Don't need a motion.
Okay.
You have agenda control.
All right. All right. Then I go ahead and move that we table this for 1 to 2 months until they come up with their final agreement between the two, and we'll go ahead and see it at that point and get it managed then.
So I would assume, you know, that Tom, you would notify our airport manager when you are ready to move forward
I certainly will, sir.
at such time, whenever that occurs. So
Thank
it'll
you
be
very
on the
much, sir.
table until then.
Yes, sir?
Very good.
Yeah, and let's be clear that this board has no input and no interest in specifying any timing relative to that. Whenever you guys are ready to bring it back before the board, have at it.
Thank you.
And I can also add that the board is absolutely in support of trying to support you all in making a good for both party, a deal that is best for you, best for the airport, best for the community. So we're very motivated to see this come to fruition in a professional fashion.
Thank you, sir.
Corey, is there anything else before we move on to the next item?
That's all. I just spoke to Bradley Busbin, and he has nothing additional to add.
Okay. So we're going to move on now to the airport manager's report.
Okay, this is Corey Jenkins, airport manager. Fuel sales were slightly down over the previous month. I do believe that there is an error in this calculation, and I got some updated numbers today. So next month, I will update that for next month. Go ahead, Michael.
There may not be much of an error. I don't know where the correction came from, but you may recall we had a TFR in effect for over a week that played a big role in that.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it's really not down all that much. Our operations numbers, we'll see later, were actually up. So it was pretty busy considering we had essentially an airport closure for a period. So this month, I've had more discussions with multiple developers that are interested in building hangars at the airport. I have here one of the developers, but it's actually two of those developers are very motivated to submit proposals soon. Kim Plant, the current clerical assistant providing services through TMCD Books, has completed a comprehensive base aircraft review. This is something I've done before, but to do this right, it requires a significant amount of hours worked, and she put in a lot of work into this, and I just want to give her that recognition for her efforts here. She compared data from the assessor's office, our access card applications, and from the ADSB data that we have, and she has identified an additional 80 aircraft that are likely based at Carson City Airport that we're going to be researching further. This based aircraft information is very important for the airport. This impacts our federal funding, and so it will potentially move the airport up in the competitive process for federal funding. So her efforts here could really help out the airport long term. I've done overviews of this data before, but this is something that to be done right would really require it to be kept up with year round. And her efforts here have really done a lot for us. We made a job offer to Cody Puchowski for the vacant position of airport operations and maintenance technician. He begins on September 25th, and we already have a training plan in place and his first project's identified. His first project is going to be improving the appearance of the front of the airport and painting that sign out there.
Make sure you let Stan know about that, Curtis.
The airport and the Experimental Aircraft Association have hosted some training for some first responders. We had the Carson City SWAT team out at the airport doing some training. We've also been in discussions with the U.S. Army Weapons of Mass Destruction Civil Support Team. They'll be doing an activity in November at the airport. This will not impact airport operations in any way, but we're really happy to be able to support our first responders and their training with the airport. Rick Lee and I have been in communications with the new deputy emergency manager with the fire department. We've identified some training they would like for airport staff to complete. So we're going to go ahead and complete that training. We're also going to work with them to create a training program for first responders on the airport. We kind of talked about this last night a little bit with the FAA presentation. The city is going to be putting together some tabletop and practical training exercises for the airport staff and first responders once we complete these training. We already have a very good working relationship with the fire department and the sheriff's office, but I think these sorts of things are really going to help with communications and how we react in an event of emergency. We did have an aircraft accident this month. The response was fantastic. The sheriff's department and the fire department did a fantastic job. Airport staff was also did a great job during this event, especially Rick Lee. Rick Lee was able to respond very quickly and provide escort to those emergency vehicles during the critical time of this accident, which is very early on. We were able to notify the flying public of the hazards and get the runway closed in a timely manner. Because Rick and I were able to work together, he was able to focus on escort, and I was able to focus on contacting the necessary agencies. It worked out very well. We'd had about a 45-minute delay in opening the runway due to the NTSB not clearing us to open the runway due to the accident involving an injury. Paul Hamilton actually was with me, and he volunteered to help. Rick, I, and Paul were standing by, ready to get that runway open as soon as they gave us clearance. As soon as they gave us the clearance to do so, we had it open within minutes. Airport operations for August were 4,193 according to the ADSB data, and that is up. The operations were definitely up over the previous month, which was fantastic considering how much time we were shut down due to the TFR. All right, that's all I have, unless anyone has any questions.
Okay. Any questions for Corey?
Comment.
Comment? Go ahead.
I have to comment for the record regarding the sign. and I agree with former Supervisor Jones. The new sign that was erected at the airport is beautiful. It's completely awesome. Love it. It fits the area. It looks really great. I think the existing sign, if it has historic significance or some desire to keep, might be better served in a different location if you want to improve the look of the entrance to the airport, which is a wonderful facility, and we should be very proud of it, and I know you all are. But it really does need improvement, and I think relocating that sign might be something to consider, just for the record.
Thanks, Curtis. Just for some background too on that, we have lots of possibilities down the road to enlarge the terminal and do some other work out front, including landscaping, et cetera, and that could fit into that long-term plan. But for the short term, let's get it at least looking professional. And then we could very much consider other options as we go forward with all these different possibilities we have being presented to us. Okay? And now, next we have our legal counsel, but we don't have our legal counsel here tonight. And even though Golden is has got his legal degree, we're not going to ask him to help us on that one tonight. And then finally, we have our treasurer's report. John?
You have all the numbers in front of you. There's nothing extraordinary in any of the numbers. I will mention a couple of items just for reference. The SRE building bid came in slightly under what we budgeted, so there will be no surprises there unless something happens during the course of construction. And then I also want to mention, in addition to Corey and Kim's fine efforts to identify based aircraft using ADSB data, there are a number of aircraft that are based at our airport. that pay their taxes in a different, through central assessment instead of through the city's personal property tax arrangements. And so Corey and I are just starting to identify how best to go and gather and identify and gather up those tax revenues. We're pretty confident that the FAA requires that those tax revenues come back to the airport, and they're currently going into a state managed fund. And so we'll be having discussions with the state about that.
Thank you, John. Okay, lastly, do we have any other,
Just a quick question, if I could.
go ahead.
For John. That's interesting. Is that to say the state-owned aircraft, or is this actually privately owned aircraft that are somehow assessed through some different scheme? What is that?
It's the second one. They're privately owned aircraft that are assessed through this state agency. I'm not, to be honest with you, I'm not sure if I have all the technical details about why.
Huh.
Yeah, but
If
Michael might, because
Yeah,
Michael
I know
uses
this
central
intimately. If you want it in public, I can give it to you. If not, when the meeting's over, I can explain it.
No, it's all right. I just was
There
curious
is
if I
there is
heard
a
that
reason.
correctly.
There is a reason for it. Just real brief. These are aircraft that are business use aircraft that fly to different locations. And what businesses have to do that own these aircraft, in other words, it's not like you running them Part 91 for yourself. So when John Kelly takes off in one of our helicopters, for example, and flies out to Fallon, we have to note every single landing he makes, every touchdown, no matter where it is. Fallon, maybe he goes to Yarrington, maybe he goes out to Lovelock, whatever he's doing. We note each one, and then we have to report that to the state. And then the state allocates those funds on a prorated basis based upon where the aircraft was and how many times it was in that location. That's why there is central assessment. So this would work for any charter company, for example. Charter companies would be on central assessment. Any utility companies would be on central assessment.
I did this for years as well. It goes to the individual counties based on the amount of flight time spent over that county.
So this, when
Canvas.
John, when you say that it's a conversation with the state, then it's to say, aha, great, so this is the mechanism for assessing this type of operations aircraft, but we need to make sure that the part that is allocable to Carson City County is actually going back through the right channels such that we get our piece.
Right.
Well put. You sound like a volunteer there, Carly, to help us with this.
No, does not sound like.
Okay, we'll move on to the reports from the authority members. Anybody have a report or any comments? Paul?
I just wanted to say that over the Reno air races, I was able to get all the pictures of how many airplanes were coming into this airport and going out. It was really amazing. Almost every spot that an aircraft could park was filled, plus overflow onto the dirt. At the same time as we had all those aircraft parking, we had aircraft coming in and out of this place like crazy, just from people from the air race were flying their aircraft in the morning, parking it, and then going up to the air races. So overall, we had just an incredible volume of aircraft here for the air races, more than I've ever seen. So our fuel sales should be spectacular for this month.
Thank you, Paul. Anybody else? I have a question for Corey. We discussed earlier, Corey, about the public funding and the allocation associated with the three projects. Could you kind of clarify the board with that? Because it wasn't clear to us earlier.
Yes. I just closed all that information.
Yeah,
I had it up because I knew you might ask that question. Give me 1 second here.
I think it's,
I can comment on it. I don't really need to pull this up exactly. I'm not going to have the numbers, but I have the gist of it. So primarily with the contract for the construction of the SRE building, This application included multiple options, and the grant award is actually for all of those options except for the extension of the water line, which was removed from the project. So that means that we're not just getting a shell of a building. We're getting a building that has an actual garage door, both for the snowplow equipment and also a smaller alternate garage door. There's also going to be some interior fixtures and improvements. So it will be a very nice, usable space for the airport and the airport staff. It was a very pleasant surprise that we were approved for the whole total project.
Okay, thanks, Corey. Does it have plumbing?
There is some plumbing, but it's, I would have to look into it to see if it would actually be usable for bathroom. I'm not sure.
But there is water coming for.
There's water for
Yeah,
sure.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
There's definitely water, utility sink. So
Very good. Lastly, any public comment? With that being said, no. Do you have any agenda items for the next meeting at this point you want to discuss, or are we just going to wait and see?
I don't have anything to discuss at this time.
Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and take action to adjourn this meeting. Thank you.